Who is that in my recording space? Who are you? Turn around. Let me see you. Oh my gosh. Oh, wait. Let me do it. Yeah, let me do it. This is like, oh my god.
Hell has frozen over. We are in an alternate timeline. I am here.
You are here. I cannot believe you're here. And this is going to be fun because I get to run this show for this one.
Mikey, what have I gotten myself into? What did I do?
Hey, you could have said no, but you felt really bad that you had to miss the last 2 weeks of ROH and you wanted to make up with an extra credit assignment. So here we are. Hi, all you BC WrestlePod nerds out there, and welcome to your still weekly review of the Takedown Troop, your weekly TNA Wrestling review team. I am the only OG host that is here for this one, so this is going to be interesting. I am Mikey, also known as El Jefe around these parts. I am the face that runs the place. I am the man with half a plan. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I'm the only one here. Unfortunately, Will and Andrew are both off doing actual IRL things. Andrew is in tech, and Will got stuck at graduation. He'd rather be here, but, you know, he kind of has to do the obligation of being a college professor. So, originally, it was just going to be me by myself, like the good old days of TNA when BC WrestlePod started, when it was just me covering it, when it was also known as Impact last year. But I called in a couple of favors because some people felt bad that they were missing other reviews. So that is why I am joined this week by my special co-host and also the other half of the origin team for BC WrestlePod, Mr. John Van Vicious himself, JVL, who you can find all over the Dynamites and ROH review. And now he's in my world, TNA.
I am so scared right now. I have no idea what's going on. I am in the deep water, and I need you to pull me out, Mikey.
I am going to pull you up, so take my hand. We're going to get through this together. Yes. See, there's an ironic twist of fate here that I can spend minutes on going about how much.
Good one for the first section there. Nice pun. Good job.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So let's just rip the Band-Aid off with this one. So TNA starts off after giving a recap package of what went down at Under Siege just a couple days ago from this episode, which was TNA's latest pay-per-view. We get a recap of all the major matches that happened, and we start off this week's episode of TNA with a in-ring celebration of the system, which holds a lot of people. So cool. This is going to be a different type of review. I'm just letting everyone know now. This is going to be a very informative one as I fill JVL in with everything that is going down in TNA. So question one, JVL.
Well, first, I'm going to let our fans know, if you haven't guessed already, I don't watch TNA on the regular, if at all. I am informed by Mikey on my other shows about certain things. I know certain wrestlers. I have a basis of what Impact used to be and TNA used to be when I did watch it every once in a while. But I'm going to be asking strange questions during this. I'm going to have real hard-hitting stuff I need to know so that I can feel like you're getting the best out of me, in my opinion here. So I have to start this off. First thing I wrote down in my notes as I'm watching this start out there, I knew who Moose was. Eddie Edwards, I'd heard the name, obviously, on like certain review shows. Didn't know his wife as well, anything else. But I'm wondering myself, Mikey, what is Kurt Hawkins doing with the championship? Isn't he on a losing streak right now in WWE?
So this is a running gag that we've had since this morning in our tech streams when JVL was watching this in the morning. I mean, under normal circumstances, Kurt Hawkins would be on a losing streak, but, you know, he is no longer Kurt Hawkins. He goes by his other name, Brian Myers. So
the most generic of names.
I mean, you're not necessarily wrong with that one, but yeah. Brian Myers is one half of the TNA World Tag Team Champions with Eddie Edwards, and he's a tag team champion. It's kind of crazy in 2024 to say that sentence.
Wow. Just wow.
But to give a rundown, because the system is all holding gold, Moose is still your TNA World Champion after defending it against Nick Nemith at Rebellion, who came up short, and then also emerging victorious with the tag team champs in the 6-man tag at Under Siege, beating Broken Matt Hardy, Speedball Mike Bailey, and Trent Seven. Otherwise, they're tag team name was known as Broke Ball Mountain. I did not coin that. TNA did. It was fantastic. But the system was in the ring celebrating. And of course, you know how all championship in-ring celebrations go. Everybody's hyping up. Everybody gets a moment to shine on the mic. We had a video package. And then the yes interrupted everything.
That was an interesting transition in the videos, too, because you thought that Matt Hardy was taking over the video package. But no, it's just his in-ring Titantron coming on to blow that up. I did say here, oh, wow, it's the same promo 3 different ways. This is really interesting writing. They sound like they are trying to be a lot smarter than they actually are by using big $10 words.
You know, I don't disagree with you because we could have just had Moose talk and that could have been it. And you could have
monotone Moose where he has no like range in his voice.
I mean, that's very fair. If I'm going to be completely honest, if I'm looking at the system, funny enough, your best talker is probably Eddie Edwards.
Which is saying something, but yeah.
Yes, I love Alicia, but I'm like, don't give her the mic. Don't do this.
No, her even setting up the package was hard to listen to.
In that Bostonian accent.
That's not a Boston accent, trust me. That she's trying to do something, but it's not that. Yeah, Moose is growly on one level, and that's it. And he also just in general like can't emote. Matt Hardy, in his own way, outshines all of them on the microphone, as I knew, with his now poofed out thinning hair. And we get, a rundown of everything else. They let him know that apparently it's going to be a 4-on-1. But he's okay with that because he's got the slowest chair shots in the world to take everybody in the system. It's like Hulk Hogan style, like to before he gets beat up for a bit. It was an interesting way to get introduced back to TNA, and this I'm like, wow, I'm really being thrown in the deep end of just like you need to know in order to appreciate this apparently.
Right. Well, then it even gets weirder because we had some crossover because as Broken Matt Hardy, which is this iteration of Matt Hardy, is trying to fight off the system, we get a save in and a run from not a Nick Nemeth, but a Ryan Nemeth.
Yes, of the AEW Dark fame, Ryan Nemeth. They're all Nemeths to me.
That's very, very fair. And then, of course, the real reason that Nick hasn't been around and he was taken out of action a couple weeks ago is because he has to fulfill his obligations. Well, I mean, technically he's kind of done because he's no longer IWGP Global Champion because David Finlay won that title back last week, which was kind of crazy to watch. But in the process, I guess it's an equilibrium exchange because while Nick Nemeth lost that championship, he gained the AAA champion. So he has Vikingo's title.
He is doing his tour of everywhere and just like showing everyone that disowned him basically after like almost 20 years of great service. I have a ton in me and you should have been putting me on a strapped a rocket to me and put me to the moon. So good on you, Nick Nemeth. I'm happy you're at least, getting to have some fun.
Right. And so the system, even though they have the numbers advantage, we close this opening segment with them running for the hills, which I'm like, but it's still 3-on-2. But okay, sure, fine. That's okay. Obviously, for those of us that watch TNA on a regular basis, I know, Andrew knows, and Will knows that we're building up to Against All Odds in Chicago next month in June. So this is the story that we're going to be telling, and it kind of is probably going to bleed into when Santino makes that big announcement later in the evening of what we're getting next week.
Oh my God. Also, I didn't know Santino had recolored his hair again and had gone like full on because obviously last time I saw him, he was dressed in a dress in the Women's Royal Rumble. So
that is very fair. I will let you know, and I'm not going to wait until we get to it. Santino is the best authority figure right now between all the companies. It's so fantastic watching him. I'm like, Santino, I've missed you on your screen. I'm happy I get to watch you every Thursday in TNA just be ridiculous.
It would be so funny to have him go up against the Bucks right now from AEW as a like heel and also not authority figure on both sides. It'd be so funny to see.
It really, really is. But that's how our opening segment went. It went on a little longer than I would have liked, but now we're built. This is the initial steps to Against All Odds.
So first off, I'm a little upset that the system doesn't come out to a Strong Bad song and just have it going, the system is down. The system is down, 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 down. Have that going there. But also, I wrote this in my notes as I finally got through this segment. I'm like, okay, now I get it. TNA is basically just camp. This is like drag performance wrestling, really over the top, and doesn't realize where it is. Got it. I'm on board. I understand. There is no seriousness in pretty much anything in this company from what I watched.
Which is the funny thing is that they're ridiculous, and I kind of dig the appeal. But I also really enjoyed TNA because there's actually a lot of phenomenal talent in there, as we'll see in some of the wrestling too. They do a good job of utilizing their small little roster by making it campy as well. Though there are some moments that don't work, and my other co-host will probably back me up when we get to a certain in-ring interview by a certain person, which that was the worst part of the whole evening, and I feel so bad for the two women that are involved in that, like our actual wrestlers. But we'll get to there when we get to there, because after this opening segment, we cut to a quick backstage vignette promo with ABC, our former tag team champions, Chris Bay and Ace Austin. We've been teasing this whole entire split between these two. They've had some miscommunication in the past couple of weeks. They've been on a losing streak. And spoiler alert, it continues to happen tonight. But we're going to talk about that when we get to the main event. I want to put this in perspective.
They did not subtly drop these hints in there also, by the way. I've never watched this. And the really bad setup payoff, not so much. I'm like, oh my God. It's like watching remedial comedy. What the hell's happening?
Yeah, they did. They kind of heavy-handed told us that, the split's eventually going to happen. But we've been building to this for the last couple of months or so. They've been on a hot streak. Then they kind of got stuck in limbo being champions. They lost the championships and everything has been downhill since. So they're trying to kind of get their way back. I want to put this in perspective because it continues to boggle my mind. And we'll get into it more when we get to the main event. Yeah. But ABC is under the age of 27. These are kids. They're not in their 30s. They're in their 20s.
You can tell.
You can definitely tell. But I like Ace Austin. I like Chris Bay. But the tease for the split is happening. Somebody's going to turn. It's going to be fantastic. We've been building up to this for a while.
I feel like you're using that term tease, and I don't feel like that's the... I don't think it means what you think it means. There isn't a tease here. This is like upfront, like this isn't subtext. This is text. They were literally like spelling out that they're going to break up in this promo.
They're going to break up before Against All Odds is definitely coming for sure.
It's happening. They're going to turn on each other, and then they're going to be surprised when each other turns on each other. Like, oh, I was supposed to do this. No, wait, no, I was supposed to do this. How come you don't get to do this? I get to turn first. Oh, I'm so mad at you for turning on me because I'm going to turn on you.
I'm excited though when the turn happens because then we're going to get these two feuding, and individually they're really good wrestlers too.
From the highlights I saw.
So we win regardless. So speaking of best authority figures, from here, we're in backstage still, but we cut over to Santino Marella, and the system is complaining to Santino about what just transpired. And basically, Santino tells him, y'all need to calm down. I'm in the process of doing certain things. I will make an announcement later. You're on your own. Bye. I love Santino.
Oh my gosh. It was good to see him back. He was an enjoyable part of the evening. I really had a good time seeing his promos, and I'm glad he's there.
Fun fact, the little deputy's badge he wears as the authority figure, you can actually buy that on TNAmerch.com, and it's so good. Welcome to the camp show. Hope you brought some s'mores.
Wow. The amount of saccharine, content I'm getting shoved right in my brains when I have diabetes by the end of the show. Speaking
of things being shoved into your face, we finally get our first match of the evening, and I wish it was under better circumstances, but... we here at the Takedown Troop take the good with the bad because we got a tag team match. Now, all these tapings happened in Albany, New York. So this is the day after Under Siege because TNA works on a pre-tape schedule. And we got the local, homeboys of the FBI taking on our newly established tag team of First Class, which is Rich Swann and AJ Francis.
I didn't know the FBI still existed at this point. Little Guido looks like he's still in great shape for being as old as he is.
And of course, Guido is ushering in the new version and the next generation of FBI because the two that wrestled are the next crop in the FBI. As soon as I saw this on paper, I'm like, yeah, First Class is going to win this. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Yes.
Question. These are some of my big questions here, the big, hard-hitting ones. I never remembered Flop Dollar moving that bad. He can't move in the ring, and I don't know why they're using him. Is he a big deal? Because he seems like he's an afterthought, and Rich Swann is carrying this team.
No, that's exactly how this is.
Okay.
Rich Swann is going to be doing most of the heavy lifting, given the fact that, well, it's Rich Swann and he is the more seasoned professional.
Yeah, that's true. But Flop Dollar just doesn't bring anything other than being I'm a big guy.
No, that's exactly it.
So he's the large William of TNA. Okay. I'm on board now. Okay.
Okay, so now that we caught you up to speed, this match doesn't last very long.
Like Flop Dollar. Yep.
Rich Swann helps First Class pick up the win here. So FBI, unfortunately, FBI can't catch a break, man. They can't catch a break.
They are, as I put down here, the dollar store WO.
I mean, you're not necessarily wrong. Now, I will say, however, I think with First Class, I think plans have been derailed because the story that we've been telling kind of had to get thrown out the window when we got to Under Siege, because there was supposed to be matches happening, but it didn't because certain wrestlers were not medically cleared for said matches at Under Siege. And so things got switched around. And so now I kind of feel that First Class right now is in limbo until said person comes back from injury. And then we can probably get back to the storylines with there, which is also weird because First Class has been in a feud with Joe Hendry.
I was going to say, like, I came to watch TNA. I didn't get Joe Hendry. It's like me watching ROH and not getting Dalton Castle. The one person I came for isn't here.
Well, I don't think JVL is going to be watching after this, but we will see Joe Hendry in action next week in our big announcement when we get there, which I'm excited for.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll be fun.
We will. But we move on from this tag team match. Again, we cut back to Santino backstage, and William, my host, William and I's favorite person, just pops on the screen, Mr. Jake something. Feel bad for this man having to continuously hide his giant Dragon Ball Z tattoo, but for copyright purposes, TNA can't get in trouble with all that. But Jake wants to get some vengeance after what had transpired at Under Siege against First Class. But because First Class already had their match, Santino's like, no. And before he can answer Jake's question fully, we have the Rascals interrupt. So Trey Miguel and Zachary Wentz interrupt. Yeah, I think I know where JBL is going to come in with this, and I don't necessarily disagree. We here at Takedown Troop have kind of grown a little tired of the antics of the Rascals because, yeah. But Zachary Wentz complains, so does Trey Miguel. We get a match which originally would be 2-on-1, and then we also get interrupted by Cody Deaner, who makes this an official tag team match between Cody and Jake versus the Rascals later in the evening, which, spoiler alert, we won't have to wait that long to talk about that match.
No, it happens later on. Yeah, this is me actually being kind of honest about this. Vaping on camera. Good on you. You're so cool. Like,
it was weird.
It's not even weird. Like, did you just forget you had it there and you wanted to? Do you feel that makes you edgier or like edgelord more because you've got a giant like cell phone size brick in your hand that's feeding you what, cotton candy blast or something? Like, dude, of all the things to like come out there with just to get your character over, it's a vice that makes you look like you're a 12-year-old, ridiculous ass that can't afford their own things there. I have very few things I don't appreciate and appreciate when I watch my wrestling, and I'm pretty open to most things. That's utter BS. I'm sorry. You have no value to me now. I can't root for you because you're a garbage human for that. Sorry.
I mean, that's fair.
I want to be entertained by an entertainment thing. I don't need to see, the local guy around the corner that's buying beer for the 12-year-olds standing out there saying, I need a wrestling match. So, sorry. No, nothing good for me there.
No, that's very, very fair. And we'll get into that match a little bit later. But we get TNA's only, interviewing show on the planet where...
Oh, it's good to see Alan Angels back.
Let me tell you, this corniness that is the sound check with Alan Angels is probably the funnest thing that we here at Takedown Troop love to see, because this isn't the first time he's done it. But honestly, yeah, we're really happy, and I've been happy to see Alan Angels be on television. But
I mean, put your mask back on, but still.
Yeah. Alan Angels with the sound check. This week's guest is Big Con and Miss Steph DeLander.
I got to also say, I'm happy to see Alan Angels mostly because Mikey knows this. I was watching AEW Dark and Elevation religiously for a while there. So seeing Alan Angels on my TV screen, very happy to see him back. So that was a plus for me. Seeing Connor wearing plaid was bizarre. Big Connor being Big Con. Way to really switch it over there. Having very little promotional skill And then you have Steph Delander, who seems lost the entire time because she doesn't know whether she needs to be a full heel or a soft heel. I feel like they could have done another take of this and maybe it would have gone better. I don't know.
No,
Bizarre.
I totally agree with you. But in the weird way, it kind of fits the theme that we've been getting with the sound check. It's just, we have this interview show, but it's really just like you got 5 minutes while the crew is moving everything around to do so.
It's a cool concept to go with. I think if I had seen more of them, I probably would appreciate it more. This one just felt like it wasn't so bad it's good. Like they were just riding that line, just still staying in the bad lane. If the other two had been more like, don't negate the premise and actually like assist him with it, still being against him, but you can do that, then I would have been on board with this. But it just seemed like they really didn't just want to be there, period, like in real life.
And again, this is one of those things where plans had to change because honestly, I don't think Khan was supposed to be in this whole entire storyline that we've gotten for the last couple of weeks.
Mr. Chelsea Green needs to be there.
Yeah, no, we all agree that Matt Cardona was supposed to be in Khan's place this whole entire time. But unfortunately, because he got injured, we threw Khan in there, and we've kind of shifted things around where we're still getting Jordan and Steph being the feud, which has been really great to watch. Mm-hmm. But we've kind of thrown in Khan in Matt Cardona's position, which by default also throws our French-Canadian Frankenstein PCO into this mix, too.
Oh, PCO. That was so bizarre to hear him reference in this respect.
I will say this man is one of our weird favorites because he's doing all these crazy things at his age. I'm like, sir, we need to stop, but also I can't look away. I'm
just worried he's gonna die in the ring somewhere on like I don't want that to happen, but goddamn PCO.
Yeah. So we move on from the sound check to our second match of the evening. This is a tag team match: the Rascals versus Jake Something and Diener.
I did love the change. I love the whole setup of his gimmick of the People's Choice. It was interesting to get it to turn into a tornado tag match, which I thought could have been fun if Jake Something had put Coney Diener right there, gone for the outlaw rule and just won. Would have been hysterical.
It really could have. But this was a tornado tag match where anything and everything happened. There were bodies flying around. The Rascals showing tag team offense because they are an actual tag team. While Diener and Cody are kind of a tag team, but haven't been a tag team for some time.
I was surprised Trey Miguel could breathe after all the vaping he was doing.
But I'm telling you, man, like those pop-up power bombs from Jake are very vicious to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And his finisher into the void is probably still one of my favorite things right now. But unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. The People's Power and the People's Choice was not behind Jake and Diener because the Rascals pull out a victory. But karma comes and gets them because as they were celebrating and moving up the ramp, they were attacked by Mr. Deonna Purrazzo, a.k.a. Steve Macklin, as he attacks the Rascals from behind and continues to beat them down. This is all stemming from that the Rascals turned their backs on Steve Macklin twice in the last couple of weeks, so now he's out for vengeance.
Which he explained in a backstage promo as we did a fun walk and talk where, hey, look, it's AEW's Frankie Kazarian.
Now it's TNA's Frankie Kazarian.
It always was TNA's Frankie Kazarian. He just joined AEW for a heartbeat there. Yeah, that promo, this was definitely one where you had to know some background to understand what was being said. They were speaking in code, basically. So I got lost and I was just like, oh, wow, Frankie, you're not wearing a shirt. Ooh, cool, Steve Macklin. I know you're with Deonna Purrazzo. Oh, you're still talking. Okay, don't care. Okay, yep. You're obviously mad at each other. Cool. You've broken up now. Wonderful. Sure. Okay.
Would you like me to give you the backstory?
Yeah, give me the translation so I can understand what's going on.
Okay, so last time on TNA. So here's what has been happening so far the last couple of weeks and even the last month of TNA. So these two got paired up by circumstance because each of them were having problems when it comes to other folks on TNA. Frankie's is a little bit longer than Steve Macklin's because Frankie has had beef and he's been in a feud with Eric Young for the last 2 months or so. It
just sounds like early days NXT.
So Frankie turned on Eric Young at the show after Hard to Kill earlier this year, and they've been feuding. They've had singles matches. There was a number one contender match where Eric Young beat Frankie Kazarian to have a championship match at the March pay-per-view of Sacrifice. in which Frankie dressed up as a cameraman and cost Eric that championship, so he didn't win, which then led to a Full Metal Mayhem match at Rebellion this past April, which is basically a street fight, but pretty much anything goes when it comes to metal. It's the TNA version because we can't call it a TLC match anywhere else because another company owns the trademark for that name. That Full Metal Mayhem match was nuts. We saw a man's ear get decapitated off live on pay-per-view. It was kind of wild because there was a spot in which Frankie Kazarian went for the finisher, but the table was too far away, and me and Andrew, as we were watching this thing live, just saw Eric Young's head go through the table and the ear just live on pay-per-view. They had to surgically reattach it.
I was going to say, he had a full Mick Foley incident. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was not a pretty sight, and go check out the review for that. Me and Andrew were just sitting there just like, I don't know how to feel about this. And thus, Eric Young, for the last couple of weeks, we've seen him, and he literally had a match, but he had to wear the protective headgear because his ear is still being recovered from being surgically reattached.
It's still stitched on. It'll fall off. Yeah, it's like a wet paper towel.
But
okay, I feel like I'm caught up on that little bit there.
Well, so that's Frankie's part. Now we got to talk about Steve Maclin's. This isn't going to be as long because Steve Maclin's biggest issue has actually been only like 2 or 3 weeks. And his beef is with a returning and newly signed Mike Santana. Because at Rebellion...
Right.
Yeah, at Rebellion, Steve Maclin re-signed with TNA, came out to cut a promo. He wanted a match. Santino came out, said that the TNA also signed someone new, and happened to be Mike Santana. So Mike Santana is part of TNA now. Him and Maclin had a really good match. Santana won, and Maclin has beef with that. So...
Makes sense.
So Santana and Maclin are probably going to be feuding for a little bit longer, but because they both have beef with individual people, they decided through circumstance they were going to try to work things out. But that didn't work out because they lost their match at Under Siege against Eric Young and Josh Alexander through some miscommunication, and now they're fighting and now they're going their separate ways. I'm like, good. We don't need another Eddie Edwards and Frankie Kazarian situation where we feud for like 8 months and nobody cares about it. That was the worst feud of 2023 ever.
Right.
It sucked.
Oh
but now
God.
you're all caught up on the backstory of why they're moving on and they hate each other.
Still lost, but that's okay. I'll move on from there. I'll move on.
Speaking of moving on, we have a sit-down interview with Tom Hannafan doing a sit-down with Mike Santana.
Oh, Tom Hannafan. I knew you sounded familiar.
Yeah, we love it. Him and Matthew Raywald do a good job as being our commentators for TNA.
Tom Phillips, for everybody that watched WWE. Anyway,
Yep.
Tom Phillips, who sent dirty texts. Tom Phillips, who had done some really interesting stuff. Anyways.
So we get the sit-down interview, and if you pair this with the Chris Van Fleet interview that Mike Santana did, it kind of is a more watered-down version of it, but we literally learn a lot about Mike Santana as a person and less of the wrestler. We get told, he was part of probably one of TNA's most popular tag teams, or at least the top 5 of TNA all time, with the new iteration of LAX.
Proud and powerful. I mean, LAX, sorry, yep.
Talking about how, him and Ortiz had a falling out and they split. And then during, the passing of his father, going into the pandemic, all his substance abuse issues. And now he's back in TNA in his home to kind of continue to do what he loves, and that's to wrestle. So I'm like, I love these. It's very rarely that we leave the realm of camp for TNA and we get a nice kind of package that is actually given time and taken seriously. This is not the best one. If you want to see a really good one, you should check out the 3-part interview with Crazy Steve that happened a couple months ago. That was actually really good and made me love even Crazy Steve anymore. But I'm biased. I'm Puerto Rican. I love Mike Santana regardless. And we're going to see him at the New Jersey Wrestle Show. I'm super excited to see all that.
I'm going to get murdered by him for saying this, but he didn't leave the camp behind. Those glasses were the camp. I'm sorry.
That is very fair, but I enjoyed this for what it was. And I'm excited to see more of Mike Santana in TNA now that he's here after leaving AEW. So we'll see what happens with that.
Question about the next thing coming up.
Yep.
Why was Dana Brooke dressed like MJF's scarf?
Okay. So first, we're going to put some respect on her name. It is no longer Dana Brooke. That is her former stage name. She now goes by Ash by Elegance.
She doesn't. She's told she does by a man.
Her Chevalier, Concierge, whatever you want to call it. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. I don't blame Ash and I don't blame Zia for what happened. Whoever decided to get Gabby to do this interview, this is a horrible idea. Don't do it again. I don't care if you're trying to bring in like people. She was not trained. She did not get prepped on, you know, how she should play character.
Nope.
This was horrible. And I
Yep,
feel really...
I have no idea who she was either. So that, you know,
me neither.
Like,
your guess is as good as mine. I feel really bad for Ash and Zia, but I don't want to spend too much time in it because this is the worst part of the show for me.
Let's look at video footage from this. Let's look at video footage from this. Holy crap, it's the same footage over and over again. How do you feel about it? How do you think I feel about it? Oh my god, this is called how to negate a premise from step 1 and have a really annoying concierge that I just want to punch in the face.
Well, then he's doing his job correctly.
I guess so.
But ultimately, what this sets up is that Zia Brookside and Ash by Elegance are going to need a rematch because Ash has had Zia's number for the last couple of matches they've been into, but Zia has, you know, has Ash's stuff, and so Ash wants that back. So we're going to get a match between the two. I'm excited because I want to give Ash, you know, a chance. We like Ash by Elegance. It's been kind of fun ride here. But more importantly, I'm excited to see more of Zia Brookside because she is in that category of the Nick Waynes and the Billy Starks, in which she's been doing this since she was birthed. And her daddy is also a big UK wrestler too. So she has that pedigree. For those of you that tuned into NXT UK, all 4 of you plus me watching NXT UK. Her and Danny Luna.
Was me.
Yeah, her and Danny Luna are probably my favorite UK signings that TNA has had within the last couple months. So I'm excited to see more of Zia.
I recognized her. I was happy to see her back, but obviously I have no idea what she does in this company right now. So that's always interesting. And Ash was Ash. It was interesting. One thing I did notice was I was like, oh, wow. Either her heels are like not made for her feet, or Ash was actually shaking during trying to deliver the promo. Like she was not comfortable delivering it, which made me feel uncomfortable. I was like, I don't know whether you're just like not dressed right or something's wrong or something's going on, but take a second, breathe, do something else, because you're delivering these things without actually showing it in your body.
Yeah, so we don't have to wait long because Ash and Zia are going to be facing each other next week, which we find out later in the evening, so we're here for this. So then we get a quick segment to tell us that Joe Hendry has broke iTunes records across the world.
Not surprising. I believe in Joe Hendry.
Yes. Joe Hendry.
I've believed in Joe Hendry since WCW days.
Yep.
I believed in Joe Hendry since then.
Look, I will channel my other co-host, Will, as the Big G, as he likes to say it. Joe Hendry and Jake Something are his menses, so I'm like, here, I can see that. But I'm really happy that this theme song is taking off. And Joe Hendry deserves all the kudos and everything. He's super
Sorry,
fantastic.
Mikey, I have to stop this right now. I know it's the middle of something. Apparently the Northern Lights are outside of my house right now.
Ooh, okay, we're going to take a quick commercial break, so grab a snack and we'll be right back. So let's leave Joe Hendry behind for a little bit. And I've been saying this for the last 35 minutes, but we cut back to Santino, who gives us this big announcement. And I don't care what nobody says. When this announcement was given and we were told everything, it's got me hyped because, at least to my memory, this is the most bodies I have seen in the ring at one time.
I have to ask about this too. General question. Is the ring in TNA smaller, or was it just the perspective on the TV? Because it felt like it's a smaller ring than anywhere else I've seen.
You know, we've had this conversation on air and off air between the TNA hosts, and we've come to the conclusion that I think it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. We think the ring is a little bit smaller than what we're used to seeing, and I think because of where the cameras are positioned, plus TNA is usually in a lot smaller venues.
Right.
I think it's smaller by default too, because the way they set it up too, like we say this all the time, the space between the apron and the barricade is so much smaller than all the other companies that we watch. So there's always that danger of somebody's about to get hurt when they do this.
Oh yeah, it's going to be ridiculous.
But Santino makes the announcement that next week we're having a first ever Champions Challenge where all our TNA champions will be taking on an all-star team of the roster. And so we were told that, this is going to take me a bit.
Go through it. Go
Okay.
through it.
So on the champion sides, we have your TNA World Champion Moose, your Knockouts World Champion Jordan Grace, your TNA World Tag Team Champs Brian Myers, Eddie Edwards, your Knockouts the system, your Knockouts Tag Team Champs Alicia Edwards and Masha Slamovich, taking
That's a team.
Your Digital Media Champion Laredo Kid and your X Division Champion Mustafa Ali. Crazy sentence for those of you who don't watch TNA and you're like, what? Mustafa Ali is a champion? Yes, he is. We're happy to see it. Taking on the Challenger team, which is former Knockouts champions Spitfire, Danny Luna and Jody Threat, Ryan Nemeth, Joe Hendry, the Death Machine, Sami Callihan, Broken Matt Hardy, Eric Young, and Steph DeLander. This is going to be a lot. It's
heels and faces all weirdly put together. This is going to be strange.
It is, because you have heels and faces on both sides.
Exactly. So who can you trust?
You're right. Which is weird, because on the champion side, there's only 2 faces, and that's Jordan and Laredo Kid. Everyone else is a heel. And then if you look on the challenger side, there is only 1 heel and the rest are faces, kind of. Sami Callihan is a tweener, but everybody else is face.
It's ridiculous.
I'm excited. This is going to be a mess, but it's going to be a fun mess to watch.
It will be. It totally will be. I'm not going to watch it. Anyway.
Hey, don't count your chickens before they hatch, because depending on how certain things go, you might be called in to do a pay-per-view as a favor to make up for it.
I'll come in and do it. I'm not going to watch it.
You'll just riff on us that actually does it. But we go from this to next match of the evening. This was local talent Will Ferrara taking on a darker version of Jonathan Gresham. We got
very Great Muda style.
It is fantastic. We've been teasing this whole entire thing pretty much for the last 2 months. We've been getting these vignette packages, and we got the debut of Jonathan Gresham at Under Siege in this darker form, in this octopus moniker. I love the very Cthulhu-esque that we're getting with the ink and people getting sick from it. It is part of Jonathan Gresham's finisher. Me and Andrew are just loving it so much. It is so different for Jonathan Gresham.
The mask design is wonderful. The over mask that he gets to wear down to the ring is really cool too. Again, it's in that vein of Malachi Black, Julia Hart, and now a lot of stuff from the Great Muda. Use the mist in a different way. It's the black mist as the ink. It's spoopy storytelling, and hopefully they do it well.
So far, it's been working out, because it's been a continuous thing. Because this week, since Andrew's not here to do it with me, I'll go over quickly. On TNA Explosion, which is the digital exclusive show. I didn't come up with that name. TNA has brought it back from the mid-2000s. But we get the dark matches before the tapings, and Kushida was on there, and he's still having the continuous effect of being affected by Jonathan Gresham's ink, because he got inked at Under Siege last week. And to see this happen on Explosion where it's still affecting him, great continuity of storytelling. It's fantastic.
It's what they wanted to do with Malachi Black and all his stuff for a while. It's it's the same thing with the Mist. People get affected, and long-term thing is fun.
We love to see it. But Jonathan Gresham picks up the win. I'm happy to see. Yeah, Jonathan Gresham, happy that he's here in TNA and that he's signed with TNA. And him and his wife can go destroy this division, which is going to be great.
Is he considered this? Is this considered a squash match?
Yes, this is considered a squash match, which we don't mind here in TNA. But yeah, Jonathan Gresham and Jordan Grace are a power couple that's kind of crazy to watch.
So
it's great.
Mikey, can I ask another honest question?
What's up?
The video package after this. Only person I knew in there was Gail Kim. Who the hell was she talking to?
Okay, so let me give you some background. So the person that Gail was talking to in this promo is the icon herself, Miss Giselle Shaw.
So that's pretty ballsy to call yourself the icon when I have no idea who you are. But anyhow.
So JVL might not remember Giselle Shaw's name outside of the only time that I mentioned that name, not in the wrestling, but talking about the fact that Giselle was treated horribly because, like Nyla Rose, people are just very transphobic. So And this has to do with Giselle being at a wrestling convention, and a certain Steiner was very, very not great to her and called her all kinds of slurs and things like that. Yeah. We talked about it on the ROH video. Go check out that review, by the way. And it happened with Nyla Rose a couple weeks ago. Giselle Shaw gets it. Another name that pops into my head for different reasons, but kind of in the same vein, Sunny Kiss gets a lot of flack for, them just being them. It's being really weird. But the reason that Giselle is at this weird, like, yoga retreat kind of aesthetic, finding her zen, is because back in February, she had a championship match against Jordan Grace at No Surrender. It was a really great match and probably one of my favorite women's matches from the month of February. But unfortunately, Giselle could not overthrow Jordan Grace, and Jordan Grace retained her title. So Giselle has decided to go away for a little bit. And fast forward to now, it seems that Gail Kim is trying to get Giselle to come back and that they need to talk. And that's where we end this video segment. So if it means Giselle gets to be back on my television screen, I'm not mad at it.
It's not bad. I just didn't know who she was. And so it was hard for me to get excited because I was like, I don't know why this has to mean anything at this point.
That's very fair. So we get the bumpers of what to expect next week, including, our match between Zia and Ash. We're also getting our Champions Challenge, which is going to be great. And then we get into the main event. This is a tag team match where it had some weird stipulations. So ABC and Speedball Mountain would be taking on each other in this tag team match. The winning team would then proceed to go face each other in a one-on-one match, where the winner of that match would go on to face Mustafa Ali for the X Division Championship. What I'm presuming is going to be at Against All Odds in Ali's hometown of Chicago in June. First, we get the patriotic entrance of Mustafa Ali and his world president gimmick. I can't speak for JBL here, but it still makes me super happy to see Ali hold the championship and just letting his new character fly. And he just looks a lot happier. And he's also a fantastic wrestler.
He definitely does. He seems like he's at least getting the push that he wants, and he's able to have fun. So I'm glad to see him doing it that way. It's weird to see him with a championship. Like, I don't know how to deal with that.
I know. Trust us. It took us a while to adjust to that too. And funny enough, like, Ali didn't beat anyone on the roster. He kind of beat a big name who, him and his tag team partner are looking to debut in AEW at some point. But Ali beat Chris Sabin for that title.
He did.
So, but Ali comes out because he's going to be on commentary for this match with Tom Hannafan and Matthew Raywald. And this was my match of the night and I wish Andrew was here because Andrew is my tag team expert. He's my tag team person that I come to give me all the intricacies, but I really enjoyed this match. ABC doing ABC things. Speedball Mike Bailey just doesn't get talked about a lot of how great he is. His finishing move also looks like it would be crushed. I would be crushed with those knees. The Ultimate Weapon is a crazy finisher with knees to the back, and it looked like it hurt. And of course, not my naming conventions, but Broken Mac Hardy's naming conventions, Mr. Trent the Seventh, Daddy Trent, in this ring as well.
I was so happy to see Trent Seven. I enjoy him dearly. I'm so sad Mustache Mountain cannot get back together at this point because they were a great tag team. So we'll have to see what happens from there, but it was fun to see him in there. And Speedball Mike Bailey, I've been wanting to watch more of his matches and have not gotten a chance to.
I'm going to send you a link because the whole entire match between him and Will Ospreay from Bound for Glory is on YouTube that you can watch for free. And if you want to see Mike Bailey go, his match against Josh Alexander went for an hour on Impact Television. They had a whole hour. It was so good. It was like, if it wasn't so recent when we made the top, our end of year list, that would have been in the top 5 for me for sure, because it was a fantastic match. But this was a fun back and forth match. This was a good showing of actual tag teams doing actual tag team things.
Go figure, tag team wrestling.
Right? If you're given a chance to shine, like, tag team wrestling is fantastic. Who knew? But unfortunately, ABC could not get on the same page, and through some miscommunication, it allowed Speedball Mountain to pick up the victory. So it is going to be Speedball Mike Bailey versus Trent Seven at some point to see who will be going up against Ali for the X Division Championship at Against All Odds.
So it wasn't easy as 1, 2, 3?
No, not really.
Not as easy as Do, Re, Mi, ABC, 1, 2, 3?
Yep, I see what you did there. You're very punny. So this brings us to the end of TNA this week. Obviously, a little bit of a different review because I'm the one that was running through it, and JVL was here for the ride.
I'm sorry. I mean, was that bad?
No, this was fantastic. I love it. You're my friend. I love you. Thank you for filling it for me.
So campy.
Now, I can't speak for my other co-hosts when they watch this episode, but I think they'll agree with some of your points because this was an okay show. Normally, it's ups and downs. While I enjoy the camp, I also had to be very critical here. And we are in the beginning stages of building to Against All Odds, but what we got tonight was okay. So I'm going to give this a solid 6 out of 10. I really enjoyed the main event. I love my campiness, but this was kind of, this is definitely after a pay-per-view taping. So next week, however, I think is where we're going to get all the crazy stuff. Because now that we are on the road to Against All Odds, I think we're finally going to see which matches end up on there. And this is my biggest critique of TNA. As much as I enjoyed Under Siege, I'm happy that we have a couple weeks between the two pay-per-views because we only had a 2-week build between Rebellion and Under Siege. I hate the 2-week turnaround pay-per-views. It's a lot. But yeah, I give this a 6 out of 10. As someone who watches the product on a weekly basis, this wasn't necessarily my favorite, though I did enjoy the main event and some of the camp. But yeah, I could have not watched this and I'll be like, okay, I can still follow along what happens next week.
I don't know how to follow that. I got lost. I had questions. It was weird. It was campy. I don't know if it enticed me to watch more. And not because of anything bad, it just like nothing grabbed me out of the blue. It wasn't like I watched a Masha Slamming video or a Jordan Grace match in this. It really wasn't the things that I've glommed onto from talking to you about it as well that are the high points. So that's kind of sad if like people are coming into this, for some random reason, like, oh no, they're making up on their wrestling podcast for missing their own reviews. And so they have to go watch the show, the normal stuff like that. Obviously, folks would in general have to come to this. It wasn't bad. I'd probably give it a 5 out of 10, 5.5 out of 10, somewhere around there where not terrible, but not as good as ROH.
No, and that's totally okay. I think the best way for people to get into TNA, honestly, would probably be to watch the pay-per-views because the weekly shows are always up and down for us, and my co-hosts can probably agree with me on that. But the pay-per-views are always solid, especially the big 4 pay-per-views. Hard to Kill and Rebellion were really, really good. And honestly, all the pay-per-views have delivered so far. So kind of weirdly enough, it's a campy version of AEW where the wrestling is fantastic, but sometimes storylines don't make sense and, points don't truly matter at the end of the night. But
this is the Who's line of wrestling,
I guess. But JVL, I know this wasn't your cup of tea, but you made up the extra credit for missing the last 2 weeks of ROH. So you have fulfilled your duty. You do not have to watch this indie fed of a promotion again.
Who knows? I might find myself jumping back on here just because I'm curious about certain wrestlers I keep hearing about. But yeah, I don't know if this turned me into a full TNA, affiliate at this point. That being said, I probably wouldn't mind coming down and talking to the rest of the folks and actually getting more perspective from this because who knows? I love you, Mikey, and I trust your feelings on this. But I got to talk to Andrew and Will about this too. I have to kind of get their perspective.
So now we're official. So JVL doesn't know this, but now I'm making it official. I'm just kidding.
No.
We got to talk off camera to figure out scheduling, but I think you at least doing one TNA pay-per-view review would be helpful. So who knows? I think we're going to volunteer you to probably join us for Against All Odds in a couple of weeks, but we'll talk off camera to figure out if that's feasible. If not, then
it'll be later on.
Yeah, if not, then I'm probably going to pull you for the next Big 4 pay-per-view in July for TNA Slammiversary.
Hey, you know what? It's a Big 4 one, then maybe I should watch it. Who knows?
So we'll talk off camera, but from all of us here at the Takedown Troop Review and all the BC WrestlePod boys who are near and dear to our hearts, we want to thank you for tuning into this episode of our TNA Wrestling Review. And remember, take care of yourself, love one another, watch all the products, and review all the wrestling. And of course, as always, remember, you truly deserve to finish your story. We'll catch you on the flip side with the regular panel next week. Well, actually in 2 weeks, because TNA is going dark because of the reasons and the East Coast Collective and myself being together at a wrestling convention. But we'll catch you when we have the next review. But until then, ta-ta for now.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another Vibe Tribe production. What's gonna happen next time? Well, you're gonna have to tune in to find out. But until then, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, make sure that you keep the good times rolling. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.